Alrighty, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome back. It is Sunday, August 22nd, and we are doing the last show at this afternoon time slot today, and I'm super excited today to have on a guest that I have been trying to talk to all summer, but summers are, well, summers, and difficult to pin down things, especially when so much going on in the world this year. But I have Jess Pendley on of Underground Oracle, and but Jess, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
I'm Jess Pendley. I'm one half of the third-party press Underground Oracle Publishing. We make fifth edition supplements and publish them through Drive-Through and our Patreon and on Shard Virtual Tabletop.
Yes, on Shard, which is something kind of like the hot new thing
Yeah,
to
yeah, really rad.
yeah to a lot of people now are putting it as like their Kickstarter stretch goals, and I'm like,
Yeah,
these people over at Shard are smart. They have some business savvy there. Hey,
they're
work with
definitely
you,
savvy
help
and they're
you.
super supportive, which is cool.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been my experience too. They're just super like, you're doing a thing. I'm so excited and proud of you. Do you want to partner?
Yeah, yes, they are. They're all about the small community publishers and third-party publishers, which is very cool and very refreshing, I think.
Yeah, and that's just like one of my favorite things about this community is how supportive it is. And speaking of supportive community, a very big honor obviously has been bestowed lately. You were nominated for Ennies for a fan publisher of the year. Which, by the way, everyone, voting is still open until Friday, so you go and vote for Underground or now or until Friday.
Anytime's great for me before Friday.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and drop that link in the chat for everyone to vote for Ennies if they haven't. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the stuff you make. What everyone wants to hear about, right? So, your most recent product that you and Keith out was Primal Path, the Path of the Skin Scribe,
Yes.
which before I even opened it, I'm like, okay, all right, that's very evocative name.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, brand new barbarian archetype, and the quote in the product page really just got me. A specialty is making marks on bodies. On me are a hell of a lot prettier than the ones I'm fixing to leave on you. And that's Sigsvar Venlord, the skin scribe of Haydn.
Yeah.
And yeah, so wanted to, bit more about what exactly is the. I mean,
It,
I could describe it, but
but why am I here then? It was honestly, it's our love letter to like to tattoos. I mean, we are Keith and I both like neither one of us have any really impressive ink or anything yet, but we're like really into the subculture of yeah, right. I'm waiting for that perfect moment. It just hasn't hit yet, but really love the concept of like magical and mystical tattoos that have been floating around in fantasy for a very very long time, and we wanted to like take and throw our hat into the ring on it, put our approach toward it, and so we're like we were thinking about how best to approach it, and we thought it would make an amazing barbarian archetype. Just you have this like collection of tattoos that you could choose from, and you use your rage to empower them and unlock them and let you do like really magnificent things in the little battle and stuff. So this
I
is the skin scribe is our little love letter to tattoos and the people who have them.
I really like it, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first opened it up, it reminded me a little bit of subclass that Alan Patrick and I worked on in our Theros subclass at Lost Versus. Um, and all of a sudden, I can't remember what it was called, but anyways, it's basically a wizard who gets their power from their prison tats.
Nice. That's great.
What did we call it? I totally remember most of the time. That is untrue. I I
The
have.
internet exists so that we don't have to remember things anymore. It's all just a search away. So that's what I tell
Yes.
myself when I'm
I I am like the worst at uh uh up called it inscription magic. There we are.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Now, yeah, inscription magic, which exactly like you said, you draw that power from the
Yeah.
ink that you put on your skin, and it kind of, um, I mean, like they've done in a lot of fantasy movies and everything, like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
chosen one has all this writing on their skin, and when they learn how to read it, it unlocks this power. Um,
Yes.
and maybe a little bit of rage.
Exactly. The rate was important in ours specifically, sometimes not so much. I think my favorite example in fantasy of something like that is it's actually a fairly recent book. It's called Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. It's part of the band series, but there's a woman in there and she's able to summon things that are basically just, constructs made of the tattoos on her body. So she has all these grotesque like tattoos and stuff, and in the middle of battle, she'll like turn those into living creatures to fight for her. And it's just incredibly fucking rad. Very, very cool scenes in the book revolved around that. And that's definitely my favorite part, or favorite tattoo fantasy thing that I've seen personally. After, of course, the skin scribe that we just put out, which is my current favorite.
Yeah. Um, it it also reminded me because I've watched Doom Patrol pretty recently, which Brendan Fraser is having the Renaissance is occurring.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen Doom Patrol, definitely excellent in that. But they have the Cult of the Unwritten Book, and so it's like this kid that these cultists have raising that have all of these, tattoos that have been on him, and when he comes of age and they read the books, it's gonna unmake the whole world. Summons the D creator. Like,
That's yeah, that's way more intense than our version, definitely.
but that's exactly the thing. Like this whole like trope with like
Yeah,
tattoos and like powers coming from that can get like it can range from like kind of mundane, like, oh, I wrote down the spells here on my arm to do my
yeah.
housework, to summoning the D creator.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I really like that trope particularly because like uh it's very hard to take away someone's spell book or power if it's again. You have to
That's
like, you know,
way
flay
harder.
them. Flay
Yeah,
them, become one with the House Bolton. Um
exactly.
and that's really just like, you know, even like a lot of evil villains like all the line at like skinning
Getting a lot of
these.
most people will be like, I'm bad, but I'm not that
Like
bad.
I'm a bad guy, but I'm not like,
I'm not a monster.
yeah. Who do you think I am? But as we're getting some feedback here from that, you are the best at crazy concepts. Um, and I think that definitely holds. Just kind of looking down the very impressive 111 products you and Keith have put out just on Drive Through RPG. You've got, so many like subclasses with circulation, um, and then and then we go into like some creatures. Utopia Snailtails was actually one of my recent favorites.
Yes.
Uh, and you've got a bunch of lineages, the Ranger Titan Slayer, uh, deities, map, NPCs, and you're just like, there's not really a supplement type area, whether that be players, villains, in types, archetypes, classes, whatnot. Like you guys have um
We put our
kind
little
of,
grandpa paws on all of it. We do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um not so much into like adventure writing.
That is, yeah. We like to Keith and I we joke around and we're kind of like the Blue Apron for RPG games. Like we give you the ingredients and then you do what you want with them.
Yeah.
We put out like Epic Evils, and it has basically everything. It's got like the high CR bad guy, it's got the environment they live in, it's got additional creatures, it's got hazards, etc. It's got everything that you might need to run it, except for like a linear progression of this is how you tell your story. Like we're very much into that happening organically on its own. So we haven't done a bunch of adventure writing. We've thought about it, and we still kind of every now and then kick it back and forth, but like we really more often than not like to build like the world that people can run around in rather than the actual.
So you're sending out the science kits.
Yeah.
It's more fun if you figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and I honestly think that you've all found like a nice spot to be in the market because um from someone who's written some adventures, it is competitive.
It is, yeah, and it is, and there's so many heavy hitters out there that are just individual writers and companies, but that put out just amazing adventures. Every day there's something hitting, and it's just
Yeah, and it
awesome.
also is very like time consuming. I it definitely takes like I don't know 10 times as long to do a short adventure as it does to be like, okay, I have this really cool subclass idea and I'm gonna make an NPC using the subclass or kind of based on it so that everyone sees how it works and start that today. And oh Jesus, I finished it today.
Yeah.
Um, fortunately, the day has 24 hours in it. Um, because as everyone's saying here, Keith's saying he doesn't sleep. Who needs to
No,
sleep?
exactly. He doesn't sleep.
And for anyone who didn't know any better, that would definitely feel true. Perhaps Keith actually, who's out there just typing these things up constantly, no sleep, or what is it, a warforged?
Here we go. Yeah. He's just a really sophisticated AI that I've programmed to churn out supplements.
Well, I mean, whatever you've done, it's obviously working because I keep number 111, but you all have only been doing this for just under 2 years, right?
Yeah, yeah. Our second anniversary as a publisher is September the 1st. So that's super exciting for us. But yeah, we originally are like when we first shot out of the gate, we shot out hard and we were putting out a lot of supplements in a very, very short amount of time. And we did that for like, I think 6 months. We were doing like 2 supplements a week. And then that was a bonkers workload to keep up with. So we eventually pulled it back slowly. And now we do twice monthly supplements, one longer and one shorter. And then we also do like monthly map packs, things like the certain patron bonuses and things. But yeah,
Yeah, you gotta pace yourself or you get
yeah,
burnt out
burned out. Yeah, your passion
and
becomes like, yeah,
and
burden.
angry at yourself, I've found.
Yeah, yeah, because you have like these weird expectations of yourself that are nearly impossible to hit. And even if you're getting like this close, you're suddenly like, oh, I'm such a tool. But yeah,
Everyone else is like, God, you're doing amazing, and you're like looking at the set of deadlines you've made for yourself, like, I strongly disagree.
I'm so behind, you don't even know. Yeah. But it was funny because we were actually really nervous about pulling back. So we did like a poll of our Patreon, and the overall, which I didn't think, but the overall consensus was like, please slow down making stuff because we cannot keep up with reading it, was basically what people were saying. So we were like, oh,
Yes.
that's good to hear, actually, because we were super worried about that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and like I totally relate with that because um I I have an assistant because I have too much to do. And
Yeah.
a large part of my assistant is, hey, I have this giant folder full of stuff that I don't need you to read it because like I can only pay you so many hours in a week. But I
Yeah.
need you to skim it and
Give
like yeah, give me the highlights. Just write down the highlights
yeah.
so that because there is so much good stuff. Like I could easily spend every penny that I'm making back into drive through and still not have bought everything I thought was
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a wish list a mile long that I just slowly check stuff off of, but it just grows at twice the rate. So I'm never going to completely get everything.
so saying that you've got over a decade of materials and settings that you pull from. That helps a lot with content creation because it's not like you're having to come up with everything from a completely blank slate then.
Yeah, we're not spending a massive amount of time conceptualizing right at the start because we've already conceptualized it and it's been growing organically and intuitively for over a decade because through playing and things like that and watching other people play with it. So we're very lucky there. We have a huge world of concepts available, or that basically just missing the mechanical components that you would need to turn it into a viable
So
supplement.
you've been at least designing at least in your head for over a decade and playing tabletop RPGs
Since I
longer.
was, yeah, I started when I was 17. I think Keith started when he was like 14. Like, yeah, so it's been we've both been playing for a while. And originally when we were designing this stuff, it was with the hopes of like putting out a third edition book. Like we were like, oh, we're gonna put out something for 3.5. And then eventually that kind of evolved into, well, maybe we'll do it for Pathfinder instead. And then we ended up settling on fifth edition just because it is, it's so good for new role players.
It's
And
more, yeah, it's more accessible for
yeah,
new people. I
yeah,
I actually was trying to somebody. Okay, we may have seen my post about how I'm trying to make friends through dating apps.
yeah, I've been following
And so I was talking
that.
to someone and they're like, like, how would you sell fifth edition to like someone who's been in the genre but never played it? And I'm like, gosh, I've never had to do that because the brand kind of itself. But I stepped back and thought about it. Well, I'd sell it by saying, what I love about it. Things that I love are that it's so accessible. I can easily teach this to a table full of people in 30 minutes, and they know enough to be like, okay, I can
Yeah,
leave and I can go play this game with another DM and not feel like I'm a burden.
or run it even. I mean, something
Yeah.
as simple as just being like, when in doubt, give advantage or disadvantage. That's big when you're a new DM because it's like you don't have to. Yes, it is like really. It's not as rigid as other systems, which some people don't like, but that makes it so welcoming for new players and new GMs. It's really worth it. Plus, I mean, you can go to the library and check out D&D books, which is amazing. Like that's a really big deal. You can go to like Walmart and buy it off the shelf, and
Yeah.
which reaches that normally people wouldn't be able to access role playing stuff. So it's accessible in a lot of different ways, in my opinion.
So, from the chat from Waffles Europe, how do you go about balancing all that's published via Underground, like to your own material and like to publish? That's an excellent question because balancing is tricky.
It can. I'm one of those people where I'm lucky because a lot of it feels kind of intuitive for me. It's kind of like I know how it's supposed to feel as I'm creating these things. And then it goes through a round of, we have a couple of groups that we have near to us and we play a test ourselves. So then we do play testing. And then I will also annoy certain friends of mine to be like, hey, what do you think of this? Does this look good? Does this look balanced? I mean, specifically Christopher Knapp and Caleb Bands, like those two people I lean on a lot because they're just great designers themselves and great writers themselves. And so, if I have like an archetype that I'm like, this doesn't feel a little wonky or something, I might go to Chris or I might kick, and then I'll go back to Keith and be like, how do you feel about this? So it's a lot of back and forth initially, and then some play testing, and then it's out. But I'm lucky because I do kind of have that weird little, if I had like a terrible mutant power, it would be that I can kind of intuit the balance on building like
I mean,
archetypes and
and that's good. And it sounds like you've got a core group of, I started my writing in fan fiction. Those beta readers who are like, you know, okay, so, they're super like honest with you. They're not exactly playtesters. They're like,
yeah,
all right, I've read it and I have a concern about this bit. What did you mean? It's ambiguous.
yeah.
And then you, who like, understood it in your head and you just like had it, much like my talent is conceptualizing space. I'm the best at hacking Tetris.
Oh, that's awesome. I lack that entirely. So I envy you.
Yeah, it's been a great skill considering, you know, you're like, okay, well, it made sense in my head. So obviously I haven't put something on paper that lets you know like where you just had the gap in the words to explain it. You know, often one of the most difficult parts of balancing is not so much like knowing how it goes, but being able to put it into words
Yeah,
that make sense
convey.
to other people.
Yeah.
And you know, apparently this being your superpower is great for Keith because he just has to worry about story and lore.
Yeah.
Um, that's a, you know, that's a great partnership
It
there.
is. I mean, and
Um,
honestly, that's we create really well together because our skills really complement each other. Like Keith's an unstoppable idea machine that is just burning
the
at,
narrative powerhouse.
yeah, it's just constantly, and he's throwing out ideas and concepts on a consistent basis. Because even though we have that decade to pull from, we're still creating new concepts and ideas
Right.
constantly every day. And then we build onto that together, and I get to add in like the mechanical stuff, you know, more than he does a little bit, and he adds in like that raw creative juice a lot more than I probably do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a back and forth, and that's something that I've definitely discovered as I have people that I've worked with repeatedly, like especially like when I'm working with Alan on something, be like, okay, so we're gonna do this, and I'm like, but this is how we're gonna make it a little fluffy and
Yeah.
happy. But then twist, we're gonna put your thing on the back end where it's actually terrifying. And now, how do we make this work mechanically?
The old one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, it's good to have a partnership like that, especially when you're churning out so much content. And I know you said like a lot of it is you know, kind of like from the back catalog in your brain, but you know, much like everyone else, you're always kind of speaking and going through finding inspiration from the around you. Would you
Yeah.
say is like your top inspiration? Aside from Keith, obviously, you can't count that.
Yeah, that'd be cheating. Um, I don't know. I've always read a lot when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So I wish I read as much as I did then, but you know, I have an adult life, so that makes reading almost impossible. But
Also,
reading,
you don't get free pizza for reading anymore as an adult.
right? Where's the adult book it program? That's what I want to know. That was so important. If I got free pizza for reading now, I'd make time for it. But it's really, and it just consuming what, I mean, again, there's a wealth of ideas out in the community and a wealth of just interesting, creative people. And I think just being a part of that, it's kind of like the Twitter part of the D&D, the TTRPG community is just, I really love it. And it's like being in like, it's like people would move to these areas where like this little subculture was thriving, and then suddenly they would become more creative as a result of it. I kind of feel that same way about, you know, the little environments that you can find yourself in online on Twitter.
Yeah, like how all the tabletop people use Twist, and now they don't have to live here.
Yeah, exactly.
They
Now
could
you,
just live on Twitter.
yeah, and you inspire each other, and it's just being in that atmosphere where everybody is just constantly creating. Not only does it kind of drive you if you're that sort of person that like is like, oh, I want to do that, you know, it drives you, but it does help keep you creative and keep you kind
Mm-hmm.
of malleable, which is cool.
Uh, and I especially like kind of that creative, I guess like constant brainstorming thing that Twitter has going on because it is so fast paced and there are so many just like you don't think of it. It's just like an off the cuff response. And like
Yeah.
that's where you're true to yourself. Like you're not mulling it over and mashing it to death and perfecting it.
Yes.
Air
Yeah.
quotes there, put some serious air quotes there. You're just you're saying the first thing that comes to your mind and like some
Yeah.
of these Twitter shit posts like make the best adventures. Like I know for instance, um Oliver Darkshire, like his whole Curse of Hearts gay vampire take on
Yeah.
Curse of Strahd was from a shit post.
It's
And everyone
magnificent.
was like, you have to write this. And he's like, fuck, you're
I guess
right.
I do now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you know, back to everyone. Everyone agrees, adult book it, please. So to the
Yes.
powers that be out in the um, I don't know, do we need to appeal to
Let's
Kamala?
say
Can we have adult book it?
where's the adult booker program?
Yeah.
That's
I
that's a
mean,
big,
yeah, if
big
we
idea.
want our country to be more literate, that is the way to do it. You get free ice cream cones or pizza. Um, but yeah, um, you know, as Kate is saying here, having that backstory, you know, even though you have it, it's still very complicated to do all of this. You have that way nicer than starting from scratch. um, saying you actually started 15 years ago and planned this for 10 years. So
Yeah.
this has been a while in the making. Um, and yeah, like, obviously, uh, you had an excellent starting foundation, which uh, has gotten you kind of out there ahead of like ahead of the curve, actually, I kind of want to say, because even though the you didn't really start publishing until 2 years ago, which was quite after quite a few years after the guild started,
Yeah.
when like we had like the big boom of Jeff Stevens and JVC Perry and
That whole thing. Yeah.
the whole, that all of the original DM, like all came in swinging and just like put out so much material that it kind of put you right there on line with those people, because that's one thing about the guild and drive through RPG. Like, if you have more content, there's more things for people to see. It's them other things, and they're more visible,
Yeah.
which leads to more of that perceived success. Um,
Yeah.
and I say perceived because that's like to the world at large. Because it's hard for other people to know like whether you are actually successful because they don't see your sales figure. They see your medals, of course,
Yeah.
of
It's
which you have plenty.
we're super we kind of judge the model that we have created is kind of really leans on our Patreon subscription. So it's like individual supplement sales we love and appreciate absolutely, but it's kind of the people who have signed up for our Patreon that help us really fund the continuing creating these supplements, which we're super thankful for. But yeah, the having the visibility from drive through and having the catalog for people to look through and see, oh, there's a bunch of different stuff. We have something for everybody. And we try to really make sure that we cater to both, GMs and PCs. So there's a lot there for people to look at.
And you've got, like you said, you've got a thriving Patreon community, and it's very affordable for the low price of $1.50. You can join and get to decide, like, help decide what you all do. Um,
Well,
you
yeah,
know,
the $3 tier is really where you get all the, like, $3 per month, you get the supplements that we release. So that's kind of like the tier of choice there. The $1.50 tier is great because you get access to the map packs, but you also get access to the Patreon polls to
yeah,
determine specifically the community. We always make 2 new titles free. We have a rolling selection of 4 free titles on drive-through for people to be able to have. And it was always important to me and Keith to make sure that we provided those because we both come from very poor backgrounds, and it's a super bummer to not be able to participate in the hobbies that you want because you're broke, and that's the situation that a lot of
yes,
people are in. So we're like, you know what, we're always going to have titles for free. And so at the $1.50 tier, you get to kind of help decide which of those new titles become free. So it's a way for you to be like, not only do I now get some supplements for free, but also it's kind of like you get to give back to the community a little bit in your own
yeah,
way,
and,
which is
and I
cool.
think that's like a great thing that so many people in the community do, with like the most, I guess, visible um person who does that being Dyson Logos, of course, with his Patreon gets to help describe, not decide which maps get
Yeah.
on the release the Kraken, which is they go out for free commercial use to everyone. And
Which is
like you said, having something free really does like give back to the community, and having that rotating helps people get a sense of what you all are doing, and not only what you're doing, like what you're capable of doing, so then
yeah.
they can be like, hey, I had an idea and I know you two would be able to like knock it out of the park because I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of my favorite, when people like approach me out of the blue and they're like, I have this really great idea and I don't words. Good. Can I tell it to you and maybe you can do it? And I'm like, you know, yeah, I love ideas. Um, but yeah, no, I grew up in rural Tennessee. Um,
Mhm.
so, out there we didn't have like tons of money. Like, we weren't like dirt poor or anything. There were
Yeah.
definitely people less well off than us, but like we couldn't just go to the store and buy RPG books. I didn't have any RPG books until I was in college. I also, being rural, like very hard to find anyone who played these things.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing for me either. I grew up super rural in southern Indiana, and so yeah, I was like, I saw Dungeons and Dragons and stuff on TV shows, never in a super flattering light, but I saw it, and I was like that. But I was still a nerd. I mean, even if I've always been, and it always appealed to me. The concept of Dungeons and Dragons always appealed to me, even as I was a little kid. So
Yeah, I was a voracious reader, of course, as a youth as well. So I got my first, I guess, really big addiction to fantasy when, God, what grade was I in? Really young. I think I was in like fourth grade when I read my first Dragon Riders of Pern book by Anne McCaffrey, and then I read every single thing she had produced, and then was like at my school librarian, "You got any more of them books on dragons?"
yeah, anything with a dragon, please. For me, it was Redwall. I got started with Redwall, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is fucking amazing! Redwall's the best." And I remember my dad. I was reading all these Redwall books, and my dad always had a shelf full of fantasy books. Always Dragonlance. He was a huge Dragonlance and Forgotten Realms nerd, and he was constantly trying to get me to read his Dragonlance books. And I was like, "Absolutely not! I'm not going to read that." And he's like, "You're reading them, but with mice. Read the one with people."
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah,
Dragonlance was my first introduction to D&D as
yeah,
well. And I still remember, fairs. Still remember when I met Margaret Weiss at Gen Con. I'm at Gen Con, hanging out, doing my thing, wandering around with my arms full of books. I don't
yeah.
I don't know. I don't really remember exactly what I had, but I had my arms full of books and I'm walking down the aisle like marveling at everything. Somebody just like bowls me over and knocks all my shit out of my hands. Like, I don't know who they were. It was a hit and run.
Yeah.
And so like all of my stuff is just like scattered on the ground. And like I lean down and start picking it up, and this lady stepped out from behind her booth next to me, picking it up as well. And I'm like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And I stand up and I'm like, "Holy shit."
That's magnificent. You had a meet cute with Margaret Weiss. That's fucking
And,
fantastic.
I remembered though her response, "I am Margaret." And I'm just like, I don't know what to do right now. So, naturally, being a terribly shy, nerdy person, I fled the scene.
Yes,
Um,
as you, yeah.
came back later with less stuff in my hands. I see these things here. I pay you money to get one of these things, and also thank you for earlier. Sorry that I'm a awkward
Yeah,
human.
sorry, I crawled away as fast as I could.
Oh yeah, but Dragonlance is a great introduction,
Yeah,
honestly.
I think it was a lot of people's introduction into D&D, really.
Yeah, and I so thrilled that obviously we've both always been into fantasy, and we probably read every single fantasy book that our rural libraries had, and
Yes.
to be able to take like all of that literary inspiration and everything, like put it out there into the world with our own spin on it has been, you know, nothing short of like surreal.
It is. It's awesome. I mean, and sometimes it's especially with like when we're a two-person team, so we do everything but the art. Like we do the layout, we do everything. And so when your head's down and you're like working, it's really hard to get a picture of what you've already accomplished. And so sometimes I'll go to like our drive-through store or something, and I'll look and I'm like, oh my fucking gosh, we've put out so much stuff. And I really love all of it. That makes me so happy. And people are reading it and they're playing it. And it is a dream come true. It really is. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
absolutely
I
people will want to talk to me about characters they've made with our stuff, or like, and they'll approach like, oh, I don't want to bother you or something. And I'm like, I fucking live for this. Please constantly tell me that you're reading my stuff and playing my stuff. That will never get old ever.
that's been most of what chat is. Most recent comment that wasn't Keith, was Nicola the Druid. Speaking of new Underground Oracle content, running a level 20 one shot this week. I've already added jinxes to it.
Yes.
Um,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so yeah,
That was our most recent. We put out our supplements a week early on Patreon. So we just put out one on this last Friday, and that's coming out to drive through next Friday. But it's a supplement that introduces jinxes into your campaign, which are like tiny curses basically. So they're not world-ending things or massive, but they're major inconveniences to your players and stuff. So it's got like a big list of jinxes and mechanics, and then like 2 creatures that use them, which are pretty cool. But yeah, so
Yeah, so I mean, being the age that I am and having grown up with Harry Potter, I thoroughly understand the hierarchy of jinxes, hexes, curses.
yeah.
You get your jelly leg jinxes, your bat bogey hexes, and then your unforgivable.
Yes,
You got to
yeah.
be real. You have to mean them, and also don't cast.
Bad karma all the way around.
Yeah. So yeah, so being able to have like jinxes and stuff that kind of not really like a low level magic, but that like, all right, you've annoyed me, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
jinx you, and it's just gonna be like an annoyance back to you, so
yeah.
that you can like think about what you've done.
Please learn a lesson from this.
Yeah, learn a lesson, or I will jinx you again, so that you have to dance for 24 hours.
That's yeah, it's and actually we released like 2 little creatures in it, and as I was writing them, I kind of fell in love with them, like even more than I did the conceptually, just because like they're both such little dicks that it made like they're both like the worst kind of little creatures, and they're low CR, really low CR, but so annoying, and the possibility to cause all sorts of like shenanigans with them is amazing. So I
Yeah,
would love to hear what sort of shenanigans people cause.
yeah. So people getting out there, with those jinxes, with these subclasses and everything. Like, as a creator, what we want to hear is tell us what you've done with our stuff.
Yeah,
Even
always. Creator,
especially
all we want to
especially
do
if
is
you think it's dumb. If you think it's dumb, we definitely want to hear it.
I do. I want to hear it always. It doesn't matter. All it does is make my day to know that somebody is, responding to our stuff. Like that's literally all that it does.
Yeah. Or, just Kay the gamer says have a criminal amount of fun playing the Underground Oracle stuff. To which Keith said, "Hope you'll introduce it to your new friends in prison. It's gonna be the new jail currency."
There we
D&D
go.
games. Which actually, I'm gonna assume most people here haven't been in jail recently, but apparently, just like the rest of the world, D&D is having a huge boom in popularity in like minimum security prisons because you can't
Yeah,
have dice
yeah,
in.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and like that just makes me so happy because like, I mean, criminals deserve to have fun.
Yeah,
Like,
little
yeah,
escapism.
good harmless fun.
Yeah, exactly.
The best way to have a regular game is locked up together. It's true, you never have to worry about their schedules.
Oh yes, it removes the scheduling concern completely.
Ah,
At a pretty high cost, to be fair, but yeah, no more scheduling concerns. It all
yeah.
balances out.
um, yeah. So, you know, what would you? I know it's gonna be kind of like asking you, Kyle. But what would you say is like kind of like one of your more favorite things that you've out there? Maybe not even like your favorite, but maybe one that you've just used more. I don't, because I definitely don't want you to have to choose your favorite child.
Yeah, that's unfair, and I don't want my babies to hear me. But it's funny because it's like I'm always like, this is my favorite thing that we've done so far. And then 2 months later, we'll put something out, and I'm like, no, this is
This
my
is my
favorite.
favorite thing.
Everything else before I was at, now I'm at the top of my game. So I mean, it changes constantly. I think supplements that I really loved the Haro. We created a little tiny, like a micro setting basically for a new plane, and it was not one of our more popular supplements by far, but I absolutely fucking love the thing. It's like got everything that I like. It's got like they have sand ships across this like desert, and there's like giant mushroom forests, and it's like this plane that's like a mushroom punk, desert punk kind of crystal punk atmosphere. And that was created just purely out of my nerdiness for those topics, and I love that supplement so much. Um, and it has like a lot of really cool like little touches in it that I'm pretty proud of. But I really like the Titan Slayer Ranger too.
Yeah,
It's a very cool way to play a ranger, in my opinion. But I feel weird bragging about all our stuff. But
that's what you're here for.
I love them, and I loved one of our more recent one. I love Snail Tales. Finally getting Snail Tales out was good. We have a million different snails that we could be putting out, and we picked three, and I really like the three that we put out.
As soon as I
Um,
saw flail snails,
yeah,
in whatever whatever monster book it wasn't the monsters manual, but as soon as I saw flail snails, I'm like, okay, if we have flail snails, then like, what other kind of snails do we have?
snails. If you're
Because
walking around our games, a lot of snails.
because there's a lot of great snails, and then there's a
Yeah.
lot of awful snails, like these son of a bitches that have been eating my hostas outside.
Yes, bastard snails. So yeah, we've got bastard snails galore and good snails. So I like Snailtails. Getting that one out was a fun one. I really liked getting out Mama Bardossa's bathhouse just because it was a different sort of downtime destination for us, and it had a lot of really cool lore tied up into it, and a lot of like possibilities for people to work it into their games. So those would be my recent favorites, I would say. But if we ever do an interview again, I'll say no, those are garbage. Check these ones out.
Well, so that's the thing I firmly believe about like favorites is that like um everyone's favorite everything constantly influences science. Like it's
Yeah,
not a rigid fixed thing. I hate when people are like, "Well, what is your favorite movie?" And I'm like, "Today?
yeah.
Yesterday? This week? This month?" Like ask me again in 2 days and it's going to be different. Like right now, um it's Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. I just went and saw that Friday night and oh my god, it was so good. I
I have
did
not seen it,
I
but
had
I think
no expectations for it going in, but I was just delighted with it.
that's
Um,
all.
but we picked up some movies on Blu-ray. I've got Luca now, so if you ask me again after I watch Luca, I'm sure that's what I'm gonna say.
It's Luca.
It's
That's awesome.
yeah. So it's like favorites are and I mean, God, I'd be the same way if someone's like, "What's your favorite?"
Yeah.
In like what genre? In like like I could tell you what my least favorite one is though. I got that one. And it's nothing personal to the adventure. It's the first thing I published.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. It's like I look back at our early stuff and I'm like, it's good, but I'm like, it's not my favorite, there, and it's just because it was so early and we were still finding our feet, finding our legs and stuff.
You're,
And
you're a lot nicer to your stuff than I am. I look back at my first thing and I'm like, God, that's hot garbage.
but you know what is funny? Like speaking of Oliver Darkshire, and I think I mentioned this on Matthew Whitby's show too. But like I was like lurking in the community for like a year trying to study what people were doing and stuff before we ever decided to do this because I wanted to make sure that
And
we weren't.
Oliver's off being this like outlier.
He is, but he also did this tweet, and it was he did a tweet, and it was basically like, I think all of my original stuff is garbage. He's like, but it got me to the stuff that I'm at today, and publishing that garbage made me the writer that I am now. He's like, so I still love that stuff. He's like, even
Yeah.
though you can look at it and look at what I'm making now, and there's a world of difference. And that was incredibly inspiring to me. I was like, that is true. You have to push out the garbage to get like the good stuff out, basically.
I mean, if anybody was ever like, you should take it down and no one should be able to see it again, I would be like, no, it's my baby. I might not like it very much because I've learned better than to let a mystery be the first thing you ever publish because it's hard to do. Um, but it's still one of my children.
Also, there's someone out there and that's their favorite thing that you've done. I mean, that's their favorite adventure. I mean, that's the other thing that I tell myself too. I'm like, you can't account for literally, you don't know everyone's opinion. You know your opinion, definitely, but there's someone out there and they're like, I don't think that's your worst thing. I think that's your best thing. And it's my favorite thing, actually. So
Yeah.
that goes to everything.
And it's all subjective.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about like being so hard on your like what you hate might be the one thing that God, I've been waiting years on someone to make this thing.
Yes. And see, it's easy to say this now, but then like, a few hours from now, I'll be hitting my head against the keyboard going, oh my gosh, I'm terrible. Nobody likes anything, it's just, that's the terrible cycle of being a writer, I think, more than anything else.
And as you've been going through the things that you like here, everyone in chat has been like everything you listed. Like, I love that thing, Shroom Punk. Yes. The Moosling, Mama Bardosa. Yes, yes, yes. Everyone loves these. And and Just K the gamer says it's all great. Fight me. And honestly, Kay, that is totally how I am when anybody like says anything like about anything my friends, and I'm gonna use friends really widely here.
Yeah,
All of my online table associates,
there we go.
of
Network.
which that pretty much includes the entire community. If someone's like, they did this thing and they did it poorly, I'm like, do you want to fight right now? Are we
Yeah,
about to have fisticuffs? Because I'm defending their honor. They did their fucking best.
they did. They did. And like you said, it's all subjective. That's why like I'm not super big on like me personally critiquing things because I'm like I know this. I don't know. I guess as a creator, it puts me in a weird position, and I know that this person like put their heart and soul into this. And even if I'm like, oh, this has like glaring mechanical issues or something, I don't feel the need to like tell
Oh,
them that or write it out and tell a bunch of random people that. You know what I mean? It's like
it,
it's it's
the
hard because
editor in me, the editor in me needs to say stuff. So like, I don't feel bad like critiquing because like I'm not like when I go and critique things, I'm like, this all sucks. Like, there's a section that like I was looking at and it was kind of ambiguous. So let me explain to you how I interpret it. And that way, like, you can make whatever clarification you want in case this interpretation is way off the bat.
yeah,
Um,
personal
or
conversation that you're
yeah,
having creator too.
constructive criticism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
constructive criticism. It's not like, you're doing like a 16 tweet Twitter thread or something where you're just trashing this person. Like that's a little bit different. And I think
I
you
think
can read like
I've
a
only done
good
the 16 Twitter threads trashing someone for like their person how atrocious.
that's different. Or to have like weird like if there's a lot of like weird content issues I think that people can stray into sometimes, which is like blatantly offensive or things like that. Those people deserve to be trashed, obviously.
People
But
who continue to put half naked women on their covers, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's 2021. I know time is meaning, um, but we
because
stopped doing that when the year started with the
yeah, that's different to me. That's like these people put themselves out there. Those are things we should all be past by now. That's different than someone being like, oh, I made an adventure, and someone's like, it sucks. Like that's different.
I made an adventure. Oh, you did? Let me tear it to shreds and tell you how I could write one better.
Yeah,
And then like as a creator, I'm like, okay, show it to me then, the thing that you've written better.
do the thing, please. That'd be nice.
I'm gonna need the receipts. If you're gonna be over here shit talking my in the meantime,
Yeah, the audacity.
um, but yeah, and Kay, thanks so much for Keith is so passionate about the movies. Anyone not part of the Patreon or hasn't it, I'll give a free copy to. Just go to the website. And
This is true.
it's great to have that thing, that passionate, especially when that's the thing right now. Ask Keith again in a week, and it'll be a different thing that he's trying to give away for everything, and then you'll have to be like, "Hey, Keith."
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. To be fair, I'm probably worse than he is. Like if we just like people playing our
I
stuff really more than anything else. I mean, so yeah, but Keith loves popping in the chat and be like, free stuff for everybody.
Yeah. Um, and uh, and we've got like a little brigade of people who've been that as well. If anyone's criticizing your work, my work, our work, I don't really know who they're talking about, but I assume it's your work. Let them know, and they're gonna talk. We've gotten
The members of the underground come hard, definitely. Yeah, they're not gonna back down. I love that. We have
yeah.
like such an awesome we have such an awesome community of people from our Patreon and on our Discord that it's just so incredible. I love every single one of them. It's so great. I would imagine that's the people threatening murder in the chat right now.
Probably. Yeah, and sorry for the sound issues pointing out on my side. They keep losing my sound. When I get too excited, I lean away from the microphone and yeah. And then I don't meet my noise gate to where it's blocking my background noise. So, whoops. Yeah. First rule of the Underground Oracle Underground is to tell everyone about it. Um, so,
True.
I
Yes.
like that. I like that rule. I like that rule. Um,
That's a good.
so yeah. So what we want to hear, obviously, from everyone at is what else do you want to see from Keith and Jess? Like, what could they do again, but cooler? Or what could they do that they haven't done? Or is there like a supplement type that they haven't done, aside from adventures, because established that's hard and competitive? Um,
Yes.
they know that they haven't done an adventure. And yeah, um, and so while they're thinking about that, like, do you have any like big projects on the horizon that we should be, preparing our wallets for? Or are you still just, keeping with the monthly cadence?
We have the twice monthly cadence as normal, and we have some very cool supplements coming out via that. Coming up in the next couple of months, there's some really cool stuff. We have our first Kickstarters on the horizon.
Ooh,
Uh,
that is a big project then.
it is a big project, so we're hoping to kick that off sometime soon. And it won't be for our whole setting; it'll be for a smaller project, but it's a really exciting one. I think people are really really going to enjoy it. And then let's see, I have a DM's Guild project coming out in the near future as well, that I'm doing with Kayla Bands and a bunch of very very cool people. There's a whole crew of people.
I love a good
So
collaboration.
yeah, yeah. So just stay tuned to our Patreon. We have, a lot of really cool stuff coming out soon.
Yeah, so that's if everyone's wanting to get updates and everything, the Patreon is the best place to keep updated. Second best place, I assume, is Twitter.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
Probably want to follow like all of the individual Twitter accounts in case you forget to repost on one because and
we are human. Also, I have a newsletter called Unplaytested, and I put out free stuff through it. And some of it's stuff that eventually becomes canon for Underground Oracle. Some of it's just crazy one-off ideas that I have, and you can get all your underground news that way as well. So also
and you can join the newsletter, the Discord, and all the other cool stuff from the website, which I posted in chat now. Visit that, click that, join that, and yeah, um, get your wallet out.
yeah.
Everyone's wallet is ready. Yeah, yeah. So super super excited for this Kickstarter that's coming up. I'm jazzed for that. Didn't realize you had a bigger Kickstarter on the horizon, so can't wait to see it. Everyone's doing Kickstarters now, and I'm just like excited.
Yes, it's like it is. Everybody's there. It's sort of like also like you feel like as a creator, I think when you've got a Kickstarter, when you're planning for it, it's like, oh, I'm graduating a little bit, I'm doing a
Yeah,
Kickstarter, getting that
I
out.
I guess I've been kind of preparing in a way. I've had a lot of people on lately who've done their first Kickstarters, and we've chatted about like Kickstarter hurdles and everything. And I have a couple of people who do like Kickstarter consulting that I've talked with, and I'm like, okay, taking notes here. I haven't done
Yeah,
one. I haven't done one. So, um,
it's
yeah, it's a matter of time because the DM's Guild and Drive Through RPG has just gotten so busy and so competitive that like it's very tempting to like put yourself out there all by yourself on Kickstarter and be like, buy this on the merit of itself being great, while you're not distracted by 600 other very
yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of awesome stuff out there, and mine is awesome, but there's a lot of awesome stuff out there.
yeah. Chris, exactly. I love being part of a Kickstarter. I've been part of several. um I I'm beginning to be able to imagine running a Kickstarter, and it is still very terrifying.
Yeah,
Still
that's
makes
the
me want to
first.
pee my pants a little.
I'm peeing my pants as we speak.
Good news, you're only shoulders up.
Exactly. You
um
guys can't tell, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we're
peeing our pants.
I'm not wearing pants. It's a dress. um yeah, uh yeah, so um apparently everyone already has everything. You're already doing everything that everyone wants because no discussion that either that or they weren't prepared to be put on the spot, which I totally understand. But we're like at the end of the hour, so yeah, I know, right? I told you.
Told me you did. You warned me. You're like, it's gonna fly by.
I'm gonna say our hour's up, and you're gonna be like, "What?" Um, I know. Um, sorry, Chris. I didn't let you know there was gonna be a pop quiz, because then it wouldn't have been a pop quiz. Um, uh, Keith said that he told you to remember, which I assume has something to do with peeing the pants comments. We're over here killing it, knocking it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, whatever your kink is, knock it. That's it.
Yeah.
If that's it, then but anyways, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been absolutely delightful. Your fans have been delightful as well. I can't wait to what else you keep out the two of you, because it is always something that I'm like, I never would have thought of that. That's great. I love it. And
That is.
so yeah, so delighted. I'm gonna write on the train and be like, yeah, I am going to subscribe to this page. So that um uh we'll have to do it again sometime.
Definitely. Yes.
And yeah, so where can everyone find you online if they want to check out your stuff?
For me personally, you can just do at Jess Pendley on Twitter, and I've got my link tree right there in the profile. It's got everything that you need. And then at Yo Publishing is on Twitter. All the links are there as well. Plus, it's got like mine and Keith's Twitter information there. So Twitter is the best place to hook up, and you can find everything. So
Yeah, and of course, pleasure to have you on. And Keith, maybe next time we'll put you on the hot seat.
yeah, I'll type in the chat the whole time.
I know he's been in the chat the whole time, like, haha, I'm not on camera. um, yeah. As always, everyone, you can find me similarly at first name last Jenny Loveday on Twitter and literally all of the other platforms. It's just not the Jenny Loveday. I keep saying I'm fighting with you. I am, and maybe one day they'll be like, "Hey, we realized that this account is technically yours, and it's on your other account where it's being real fucking useful. So we'll let you move." But in the meantime, I'm just, "Hey, you idiots! Let me email you for the 18th time." Yeah.
Wow, YouTube's hard to work with. That's crazy.
What? What? YouTube, part of the Google Corporation, isn't
Yeah.
concerned about individual people? Yeah, I've got a great slate of guests upcoming. Next guest is going to be Christopher Hilton, Brooklyn, and then I have Cameron Day. And then I have let's I've got Rich Lescafleur, Matt Sanders, um, KP, whose last name I've forgotten, KP Studios, who does the amazing portraits, um, Martin, and Casper. Oh gosh, I'm going to butcher last name. I'm going to go with Canstrup. Um, Talking about some of their dungeon craft stuff. And then I had recently opened up my survey for submissions for being on the show. So if you submitted to that, if you were one of like overwhelming number of people who that, don't worry, I've got it. I'm working on scheduling people. At this point, I'm scheduling all the way out through February of next year. Um, so, yeah, so many people, and I want to talk to
A
all of
lot
them.
of people. There is, yes.
Yeah. Thanks again so much for being on today. That is going to be it for this episode of the Designer's Den. Everybody, in the meantime, go buy